most missed field goals in a season. Marshall Henderson from Ole Miss in the 2013 to 2014 season holds the record nobody's lining up to chase. He missed over 300 field goals. To be exact, it was 328. That's not just leading his team, that led the entire country. Henderson launched 824 field goal attempts in just 33 games. That means he was chucking up nearly 25 shots every game. He made only 39% of them. That's a lot of confidence and an even bigger green light. He averaged 19 points per game, so he was still putting up numbers, but the efficiency just wasn't there. His style was all about volume. He wasn't picking his spots, he was taking every spot. Even when he was cold, he kept shooting. Ole Miss was clearly built around letting him do his thing, but the cost was steep in terms of missed opportunities. Only a few players in NCAA history have ever taken more shots in a single season, but none missed as many as Henderson. That season ended with him making 316 shots. So, yeah, he actually missed more shots than he made. That's rare air, and not the good kind. This record still stands today and doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. Fewest points in a game. Savannah State's performance against Kansas State in 2008 set a record that nobody's putting on a banner. They scored only 14 points. That's the lowest total by any team in the shot clock era, which started back in 1986. 14, the whole game. This wasn't a bad half or a cold streak. That was the final number. They shot 4 for 28 from the field. That's 14% shooting. They didn't make a single three-pointer and went 6 for 13 from the free throw line. Kansas State didn't have to do anything fancy, they just kept playing defense and waited. Savannah State had more turnovers than made baskets. They couldn't string together possessions, and they couldn't find rhythm. It was like a glitch in the offense that never got patched. Kansas State wasn't exactly lighting it up either, scoring 85 points, but this game is remembered entirely for the offensive collapse on the other side. Savannah State's leading scorer had just 5 points. The team was down 36-4 at halftime. 4, that's barely even warming up. Since then, no one's come close to scoring that low in a full game with a shot clock. This one's still sitting untouched. Feel free to smash that like and subscribe button for more content like this. Anyways, fastest foul out. Bubba Wells from Austin, PA locked down one of the strangest records in NCAA basketball history back in 1997. He fouled out of a game in just 2 minutes and 43 seconds. That's not a typo. It was all part of a strategy cooked up by his coach who wanted to exploit one of the worst free throw shooters in the country at the time, a guy named Nick Stapleton from Jacksonville State. Wells wasn't just some benchwarmer either. He was the team's leading scorer that season. But in this game, he was basically turned into a 6-foul delivery system. As soon as the game started, he fouled Stapleton. Then he did it again and again. It took less than 3 minutes for him to rack up all 6 fouls and get sent to the bench permanently. The goal was to send Stapleton to the free throw line as many times as possible since he was shooting under 40% from the stripe. Wells became the guinea pig for what was basically a basketball version of the hack-a-player tactic. It didn't win them the game, but it did make history. No player before or after has fouled out that fast, and honestly, nobody's really trying to. Most turnovers in a season. Trae Young, during his 2017 to 2018 run with Oklahoma, didn't just light up scoreboards, he also gave the ball away more than anyone else in NCAA history. 167 turnovers in a single season. That's the record. Nobody's had stickier fingers, in the worst possible way. Now to be fair, Young was carrying the offense. He led the nation in both points and assists that year. He had the ball in his hands constantly, but with great usage comes great chaos. He averaged 5 turnovers per game across 32 games. That's a lot of possessions that ended with the ball in the other team's hands. Some were just risky passes, others came from trying to create something out of nothing, and a few were flat out sloppy. Even in his biggest games, the turnover count stayed high. Against Kansas, he dropped 26 points and 7 assists, but also coughed up the ball 6 times. The Sooners made it to the tournament, but fizzled out early. For all the flashy plays and deep threes, the giveaway total never stopped climbing. That 167 number still stands at the top. No one else has reached it. It's the price of playing fast and loose with the ball. Worst free throw percentage in a game. Savannah State showed up against Iowa State in 2016 and left with a record no team wants. They shot 1 for 17 from the free throw line. That's 5.9%. The worst single game percentage in NCAA history with at least 15 attempts. It's not just a cold night. That's basically missing everything. This wasn't some brutal foul fest either. They had 17 chances and made only 1. No rhythm, no adjustments, just brick after brick. Free throws are supposed to be the easy points, but Savannah State somehow turned them into a liability. Nobody on the roster could get it to fall. Not one player made more than a single free throw. That's how you end up with a stat line that looks like a misprint. Iowa State didn't need any help, but they got it anyway. They won the game by 44 points. Savannah State finished with just 60 points total and left 16 points stranded at the line. Even if they'd shot just 50%, it still wouldn't have changed the outcome. But 5.9%? That just locks the game into history books for the wrong reason. Nobody's matched that kind of free throw collapse since. Most consecutive losses across seasons, Towson University went on a losing losing streak that stretched over 2 full seasons, racking up 41 straight losses from 2010 to 2012. That's the longest losing streak in NCAA Division I history. They couldn't catch a break no matter who they played. The streak began in December of 2010 and didn't end until January of 2012. That's over a full calendar year of just taking L's. They lost every game in the 2011 season, finishing 0-31. The offense struggled, the defense broke down constantly, and the team looked completely outmatched in nearly every matchup. They weren't just losing, they were getting blown out. Double-digit losses became normal. Every gym they walked into, they were already expected to lose, and they usually did. The next season started off just as rough. They dropped their first 10 games before finally snapping the streak with a win over UNC Wilmington. That win probably felt like a championship after so much losing. During that stretch, they burned through lineups, tried to find rhythm, and just couldn't get anything to work. The 41 straight losses still stand as the longest losing stretch across seasons, and no team has come close to matching that level of prolonged futility. Most technical fouls in a season by a player. DeMarcus Cousins picked up 10 technical fouls during his lone season at Kentucky in 2009 to 2010, more than any other player in the country that year. 10 in one season. That's not a team total, that's just him. He was a dominant big man, but with that dominance came a short fuse that showed up again and again. Cousins was always fired up, constantly jawing with opponents, barking at refs, and never backing down. Whether it was a stare down after a dunk or clapping in a ref's face, he kept stacking up texts like he was chasing a record. And even though Kentucky had a stacked team, his emotions often stole the spotlight. The Wildcats still made a deep tournament run, but every game felt like a gamble on whether Cousins would stay cool or end up back on the bench early. What makes the numbers stand out even more is that he only played 38 games. That's a technical about every 4 games. He was ejected more than once and constantly had refs watching him from tip-off. 10 technicals in a single season is still the high watermark for one player. No one's topped it since. Most missed free throws in a game. Wilt Chamberlain, playing for Kansas in 1957, missed 13 free throws in a single game. 13. Even for someone with his legendary scoring ability, the free throw line was a consistent weak spot. That game put it on full display. He got to the line often, as defenders had no answer for his size and strength, but converting those chances was a whole different story. In that game, Chamberlain's shooting from the stripe was shaky from the start. He had a unique free throw form that didn't help much, somewhere between a line drive and a jump shot, and it rarely found the bottom of the net. Teams knew he struggled from the line, and they leaned into it, fouling him regularly and daring him to make them pay. That strategy worked. Those 13 misses hung over the game, even though he still put up big scoring numbers. It wasn't a one-off either. Free throw issues followed him throughout his career, but this game remains one of his lowest points at the line. 13 missed free throws in a single outing is still one of the worst single-game free throw performances for a player of his caliber. Longest active NCAA tournament drought. Dartmouth hasn't made the tournament since 1959. That's the longest active drought in Division I men's basketball. They've gone over 6 decades without an appearance. The last time they played in the Big Dance, Dwight Eisenhower was president, and the tournament only had 23 teams. Since that appearance, Dartmouth's seasons have been a mix of rebuilding, underperforming, and just flat out struggling. They play in the Ivy League, where only the top team used to make the tournament, before the league added a conference tournament in 2017. Even with that change, Dartmouth hasn't been able to break through. They've never won the Ivy League tournament, and their regular seasons haven't been strong enough to carry them into March. Their closest shot came in the mid-1980s, when they had a couple of competitive seasons, but even then, they fell short. Every year that passes just adds to the weight of the drought. No other team in Division I has a longer active absence. While plenty of programs go through down years, Dartmouth's streak has now become part of their identity. 60 plus years and counting, and the end of that streak still isn't in sight. Worst field goal percentage in a title game. Butler's shooting collapse in the 2011 National Championship game set a brutal record. They hit just 12 of 64 shots, finishing with a field goal percentage of 18.8. That's the lowest in NCAA championship game history. It wasn't just a cold night, it was a full-scale meltdown. This was supposed to be the culmination of Butler's back-to-back Cinderella runs, but their offense completely disappeared against UConn. They missed layups, mid-range shots, threes, you name it. Every trip down the floor looked like a replay of the last one. Missed jumper, missed drive, missed everything. Their 2-point percentage was under 10%. That's not even against light defense. That's just missing everything inside the arc. Only 2 players on the team made more than 1 shot all game. UConn didn't shoot lights out either, but Butler just could not buy a basket. They ended the night with 41 points and no player scored more than 12. The game finished 53-41 and every possession felt like an uphill climb. That 18.8% still holds up as the lowest field goal percentage in a title game, and it turned what could have been a storybook ending into a shooting nightmare. Most shots without a make. Anthony Lamb from Vermont went 0 for 17 from the field in a single game during the 2020 season. That's the most field goal attempts without a single make in NCAA Division I history. 17 tries, 0 makes. Not a layup, not a jumper, not even a lucky bounce. Lamb was Vermont's star player and usually the go-to option, but nothing dropped that night. He kept shooting, trying to break the cold streak, and somehow it just kept getting worse. His team kept feeding him, hoping he'd find a rhythm, but every shot either rimmed out, clanged off the backboard, or just missed altogether. It didn't matter if he was wide open or tightly contested. None of them went down. Despite the off night, he still contributed in other ways, grabbing rebounds and staying involved defensively. But from a shooting perspective, it was a total freeze. 17 field goal attempts without a single make is rare, especially for a top scorer. Most players would have stopped at 10 or 12, but Lamb kept firing until the final buzzer. That 0 for 17 game is still unmatched in the record books. No one else has taken that many shots without seeing the ball drop once. Most minutes played without a stat. Tony Skinn from George Mason pulled off one of the strangest box scores during the 2006 season. In a game that year, he played 15 minutes and recorded absolutely nothing. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, and 0 blocks. 15 full minutes on the court with a stat line that looked like he never checked in. This wasn't some blowout where he coasted through garbage time. Skinn was a starting guard on a Final Four team, but in this particular game, everything just disappeared. He didn't take a shot, he didn't grab a board, he didn't pass for a bucket, or disrupt a single possession. It's not easy to log that many minutes without accidentally picking something up, but Skinn managed it. No free throws, no fouls, no turnovers, just pure statistical silence. You have to actively avoid the action for that to happen, or just be on the wrong end of every bounce. Most players rack up something, even by accident, but 15 minutes of clean zeros across the board is one of the rare stat lines in college basketball history. That game still stands as the longest stretch of court time without a single recorded stat. Most games played without double-digit points. Nick Coletta from Loyola Marymount played in 121 games between 2013 and 2017 and never scored more than 9 points in a single one. That's the most games in NCAA history without ever hitting double digits in scoring. Not once did he crack 10. Coletta wasn't a volume shooter or even a rotation scorer. He was more of a role player who did the little things, spacing the floor, making the right pass, staying in position. But in terms of putting up points, it just never happened. His highest single game scoring total was 9, and that came only a couple of times. Most nights he finished with 2, 4, maybe 6. He attempted fewer than 3 shots per game across his career and averaged under 2 points. He also had games where he played double-digit minutes and didn't score at all. Despite the scoring drought, he stayed in the rotation season after season, which says something about how coaches trusted him to do his job, even if that job didn't involve putting the ball in the basket. 121 games, 0 double-digit scoring nights. That record still stands, and nobody else has matched that level of scoring invisibility over that many appearances. Worst free throw percentage in a season. Chris Dudley from Yale locked in one of the roughest free throw seasons ever during 1986 to 1987, shooting 28.6% from the line. That's the worst full season free throw percentage in NCAA Division I history for a player with enough attempts to qualify. He was a 6'11" center, so naturally he got fouled a lot, but converting those fouls into points, that just didn't happen. He went to the line regularly and missed more often than not. It wasn't a small sample either. He shot 84 free throws and made only 24. His form was awkward, flat, and inconsistent. Defenders figured it out quickly, foul him hard and send him to the line. Most of the time, that strategy paid off. Yale wasn't exactly lighting up the league that year, and Dudley's shooting struggles didn't help. Even though he rebounded well and played tough inside, those missed free throws hung over every game. You knew if he got fouled, the possession probably wasn't ending in points. That 28.6% season still holds up as the worst for any player who took that many attempts. It was rough then, and it has not been topped since. Most turnovers in a game. John Linehan from Providence set the record for most turnovers in a single NCAA Division I game with 15 in 2001. That's right, 15 in just one game. Linehan was known for being a defensive menace, but on this particular night, the ball seemed to have a personal vendetta against him. He wasn't a careless player by reputation, but everything that could go wrong did. He was pressured, trapped, double-teamed, and just flat out stripped more times than anyone could count, until they counted 15. Some turnovers came from forced passes, others from miscommunications, and a few were just wild decisions under pressure. The game moved fast, and Linehan's handle didn't keep up. The strange part is that he still finished with decent numbers in other areas. He wasn't pulled from the game. He kept playing, kept facilitating, and just kept giving the ball away. Turnover after turnover, it piled up to a total that no one else has touched in over 2 decades. That 15 turnover night still stands alone at the top of the record books, and no other player has matched that exact combination of endurance, usage, and complete ball control meltdown. Fewest wins in a season. Grambling State went 0-28 during the 2012 to 2013 season, finishing without a single win. That's the worst record for any Division I team in a full season. They didn't win a non-conference game. They didn't win a conference game. They didn't win in the tournament. Nothing. It was 0 from start to finish. They played 18 conference games and lost every one of them. Most games weren't even close. They were routinely losing by double digits and often by 20 or more. Offensively, they struggled to hit shots, averaging under 50 points per game. Defensively, they gave up over 75 points per game and opponents were scoring with ease. The scoring margin was nearly minus 27 per game. Turnovers were a major issue. They averaged nearly 18 per game, and many of those were completely unforced. Their shooting percentages were low across the board, barely over 36% from the field and just above 30% from three. They never managed to string together any momentum, and even in the conference tournament, they bowed out fast. That 0-28 season still stands as the fewest wins possible. No team has managed to play a full season without a win and match that level of struggle since. Largest margin of defeat. In 1992, Troy State beat DeVry with a final score of 141-57, winning by 84 points. But for the largest margin of defeat on record, the honor or dishonor belongs to Mississippi Valley State, who lost to Utah by 96 points in 2017. The final score, 143-47. That game wasn't just a blowout, it was a statistical landslide. Utah shot over 60% from the field and hit 19 three-pointers. Mississippi Valley State, on the other hand, shot 28% and had 30 turnovers. Utah scored 73 points in the first half alone. Mississippi Valley State scored 47 the entire game. It wasn't just bad, it was historically lopsided. Every possession felt like an avalanche. Utah had 7 players in double figures, racked up 30 assists, and out-rebounded their opponent by 30. Mississippi Valley State had no answers and no rhythm, and once it started going downhill, it just kept sliding. That 96-point gap still stands as the largest margin of defeat in NCAA Division I history. No team has lost by a bigger number since, and no one's looking to test that boundary again. Most fouls by a team in a game. Coppin State holds the record for most personal fouls in a single game, racking up 42. That's 42 whistles, 42 chances for the other team to score without the clock moving. It happened during a game where the defensive strategy seemed to be just foul everyone, all the time. The fouls weren't spread evenly either. Several players ended up fouling out, and others spent most of the game in foul trouble. The team ran out of options late in the game and had to keep rotating in players just to avoid finishing with 4 on the court. The free throw line turned into a parade route for the opposing team. 42 fouls meant a massive number of free throw attempts, well over 60. The flow of the game was wrecked. There were stoppages constantly, and the foul total climbed faster than the scoreboard. It wasn't just aggressive defense, it was total chaos. Coppin State couldn't play pressure defense without fouling, and the refs didn't hesitate to call everything. That game still stands at the top for total team fouls in NCAA history, and no one's come close to matching it since. Most turnovers in a game by a team. Grambling State turned the ball over 34 times in a single game against Indiana in 2008. 34. That's nearly a turnover every minute. It's the kind of number that derails an entire game plan before it even gets going. Indiana's defense pressured them from the jump, and Grambling State just couldn't handle it. The ball was getting stripped, thrown out of bounds, picked off in passing lanes, you name it. They couldn't complete sets, couldn't maintain possession, and every time they started to build momentum, the ball was going the other way. What makes it even worse is that a lot of the turnovers weren't forced. There were travel calls, miscommunications, lazy passes, and bad decisions. It wasn't one guy either. Nearly the entire roster contributed to the disaster. They had more turnovers than made field goals, and it showed on the scoreboard. Indiana ran away with the game. That 34 turnover night remains one of the worst team performances in terms of ball control in Division I history. It's the kind of stat that gets brought up in film sessions for years as the blueprint for what not to do against a full court press. Most three-point attempts without a make. SMU fired off 17 three-pointers against UC Irvine in 1995 and didn't make a single one. 0 for 17. That's the most three-point attempts without a single make in a Division I game. They just kept launching and the rim kept rejecting. It wasn't just one cold shooter either. Multiple players tried. Corner shots, pull-ups, wide open looks, nothing worked. Every miss added more pressure, but instead of dialing it back, they kept letting it fly. At some point, it turned into a stubborn quest to get one to drop. It never did. 17 straight misses from deep completely stalled their offense. Without any perimeter success, the defense packed the paint and SMU struggled to get clean looks anywhere. The game got away from them fast, and the three-point drought became the defining stat of the night. No other team in Division I history has attempted that many threes without a single make. Plenty have gone 0 for 10 or even 0 for 12, but 17 straight misses puts SMU alone at the top of that list. The game still stands as the record for most three-point attempts in a game without hitting one. Feel free to smash that a like and subscribe button for more content like this.